Hello all, I hope you're doing well today. One of the tragedies of our age is that many men are stuck in their lower nature and they don't even know so. They don't even know they have a higher nature. They've got no understanding of their real self, their real potential. And this means that they get trapped in the temptations of the world because it's all they know. I've said many times there are many incredibly powerful forces on the worldly plane that pull towards power and status. But I think the most powerful of them all is the pull towards lust. And I'm not saying love there, I'm saying lust. The promise of sex, the promise that will be completed somehow with that. The often mad desire for copulation with women. And I think that this is something that all men face to varying degrees, especially in this day and age where there are so many opportunities. Without spiritual recourse, without the tradition as well, I think that many men are lambs to slaughter to the worldly powers in this day and age. And you can see this with the way we speak about things like love. What we think of as love is very often just highly powerful interactions with women that have a lot of chemistry. And when we're saying I'm in love with you, 1 month, the next month it's I hate you. Or we fall out and it's all just madness and anger. It's because it was never love. It was an intense, high-octane, drug-like lust where we were almost obsessed with the other person. And then we realised the true nature of it once the sexual madness had gone and we recognised the true soul of the person we were with. And they maybe recognised ours as well. And on the flip side, maybe we just try and avoid all of that and we just go from person to stay in the novelty stage. You can do that with people or with pornography in this day and age, where you don't have to deal with the real person, real humanity, real life. You can deal simply with the endless novelty. Of course, that scrambles your brain with excess dopamine, to put it mildly, but it's another way that many modern men deal with the madness of lust. Now, I think it's worth contextualizing this conversation with the spiritual teaching, which you'll find across the traditions, but especially in the Christian tradition, that the feminine force is more earthly. Of course, we could say that's Mother Earth, for instance. And what that does is it pulls us down into the same level, if you like. And this is why I very much conceptualize political ideas in this frame too, sometimes. It's the idea of total equality. Now, I believe that's a myth on the physical plane. It's only true in the spiritual plane. But because we've denied the spirit in this day and age, we try and enforce it on the worldly plane, which actually creates more problems in the long run. But we view that, again, as love. It's not really love. And again, in the Christian teaching, again, you'll find it in other traditions, the idea is that the masculine is higher. That's God the Father in the Christian tradition. Julius Evola refers to it as the solar force, the sun-like force. And of course, that would relate to the yin and yang as well. The masculine is light, remember, and the yin and yang, while the feminine is dark, mysterious. That's why in interpersonal relationships, you'll often find, even in the pickup world, they don't know they're doing it, but they will speak to that wisdom with things like the man needs to be stable, still, bright, positive, forthright. These are the energies that attract women because they are more emotionally natured, they're more poetic by nature, and they can think on a more lateral line. So it's more creative, poetic, and they like the structure of the masculine. That's classic yin and yang stuff. But the point I'm making here is this distinction between Mother Earth and Father Spirit has all but been destroyed in this day and age. We have the idea there's no difference between the genders. It's all sexist to say there is. Even you'll find that in the modern church. Many in the modern church would say, oh, I'm evil and toxic for saying this stuff. But I think it's very clear that the Christian claim is that we can move beyond this world. And within that, the context that we understand that in is we move towards the Father. We move away from the world into the Spirit, away from the mother into the father, away from boy into man. And again, this isn't some tough guy routine, Andrew Tate, I'm a tough guy, man, look at my muscles, cars, guns, I got all the women. That's not what we're talking about. That's a worldly masculinity. There's some good to it, there's a lot of bad to it. What we're talking to here is going into the world of the Father, which involves challenge, difficulty, order, hierarchy, but ultimately at the end of it, through the journey of spiritual revolution, total love, total oneness in the Spirit. That's the ultimate sum, if you will. Everything is in that. Whereas the world we're in now is somewhat the opposite. We drive towards the more feminine line of, we must accept everything in the world, break all the boundaries, everything must be the same. And what that does is kind of reduce everything down to this lower level being. In one sense, maybe you can enforce a general equality amongst the people, but you remove that journey of great growth, great learning, great evolution. And that is very bad for men. Because what we tend to find is, and seeing this a lot in the modern era, is that when we deny power, which is what the sort of feminine force tries to do, there should be no hierarchy, there should be no elders, there should be no distinctions. That becomes the power, ironically enough. And this is a harsh truth about the world we have to learn. Power is unavoidable in this world. The question isn't, do we keep power or get rid of power? The question is, what power do we live by? Now, I believe that should be God the Father, as you might imagine. But without God the Father, men don't have a path of real spiritual evolution and growth. And they'll be stunted. And they will be dominated by the powers of this world. Again, it could be money they crave, or status, or women. And there's nothing bad about these things in and of themselves. It's when these things are utilized by dark forces to take a man away from his spiritual journey and pull him back down to his lower nature in the world. That means he's ineffectual, It means he can't really grow and overcome the world, find what true peace is, and in true self in God. And I think a lot of this is why in this day and age we have no structure around sex. Now, many people believe that that's purposeful by the powers that be. They might blame a particular political ideology or a group because they know if you have mass sex on display, mass hedonism, you keep men trapped, bamboozled, addicted. They can't say no, and then they can be controlled. They're not really growing into men. Now, whatever you view the force that's doing that as is up to you. But I think we'll find this throughout time and through our spiritual literature and understanding. Whether we're speaking 10,000 years ago or now, it's been the same dynamic. And we have to understand that when you remove the structure, the order around sex, it's going to open the gates of Babylon. For those who don't know, Babylon was an ancient city you see in the Bible. It's used as a symbolic reference for moving into a world of sensual pleasure. Almost idolatry, if you like, and defiance against God. Now, if you're struggling with the God word, remember God is just right being, just being as it is, love. Babylon is almost like man trying to take charge. And this is in many ways what we're falling into now. You look at what we have around sex these days, and I feel really sorry for modern men and women when it comes to this, because they're so bombarded by this insane level of sexual output, whether it's Tinder or what's the other one, Bumble, and all these apps, constant swiping, finding a new date, woman to sleep with. And you think you're going to get completed by sleeping with all these women. It's a statement on who you are as a man. I am acceptable. I'm the man. Look at these women I've managed to hook up with. They accepted me and I conquered them, and women are great. And yeah, women are great. But there's such a thing as overindulging. And when we overindulge, we can't say no. But perhaps more importantly, we fall into Babylon. And what that means is, again, we can't say no to a woman. We can't overcome the world. Just like Adam couldn't say no to Eve. And that's why the snake went through Eve. He didn't go to Adam. He knew Adam was too tight with God. He was with his father. No point attacking him. But he could get to Adam through Eve. And Adam's lust for Eve, at least that's the way I read it, meant that he listened to Eve and ate from the tree of good and evil, went into Babylon. Now again, this isn't saying women are bad, it's our attitude to women. That's the key here. And when we find that we're getting lost in the modern world, this isn't just about men being controlled by lust and sex and avoiding their true nature, which is being the men who symbolically represent the tradition and hold society together. It's not that they can do that, it's that they're actively breaking society apart. And this is something I had to realise when I was living that life in London, trying to hook up every weekend with a new woman. I was having a spiritual awakening. And as many of you know who've been on that path, awakenings come with love for humanity. You can't help it. You just start to consider them as spiritual souls, if you will. And you don't want to cause undue harm. Now, that doesn't mean, you turn into a sort of this tree hugger, although as I've said before, nothing wrong with hugging a tree. They're very powerful centers of energy. What I'm saying here is that you start to recognize your impact on the world and how people really are. And I realized after a lot of these hookups, the women I was sleeping with, they weren't happy. You know, all their feminist rhetoric and girl boss stuff. A lot of time beneath it all, you could see they were yearning for a man, they were yearning for structure. But the world was telling them, go be a girl boss. And the men too. You know, you speak to a lot of guys who've engaged in this life, fine, it's fun for a while. But eventually they can't bond. You know, they've got all these blocks to do with women. They don't respect them because they're too easy and so on. But more importantly, what I started to realise was there are guys who are getting laid and guys who aren't. And there are relationships that are going on which are relatively stable and getting broken up by cheating. And that was Babylon. That was London. And I started to think, this is just a terrible structure for a society. Now, again, there's always going to be sin in man. But right now we welcome that sin. You know, we have this life where the sexual is so overly expressed all the time, constantly on display. You know, we have such few boundaries around men and women and what's acceptable and what's not, that they're being broken all the time. And let's be honest, how many of us know someone or ourselves have been through an experience of betrayal, who have betrayed another person in a relationship? You know, maybe you've cheated, maybe you've been cheated on. That wounds people. Now, when you apply that society-wide, you think all that pain, all that suffering that's being created, you know, all the lack of marriages and children and the creation of the next generation, the lack of order that brings in society because people don't trust relationships or trust the other. These things do great harm. Not to mention, people are now spending their 20s and 30s just hooking up, having, quote, fun. Then they get to their 40s, they're forgotten, they're not wanted anymore. It's too late to have kids. You're basically just a spare wheel in the society. All you've got then is to turn to God, and many people can't do that. So what I'm saying is, Babylon, though it comes to us with this pleasure, leads to degradation and decay. I remember when I was really dealing with lust and having that battle in my life, I had a dream that a very attractive woman was trying to seduce me. And I went over to embrace her. And then as I looked at her in her eyes, her beautiful face turned into that of a demon. And the eyes lit up, and they looked right into my soul. And I woke up, you know, sweating and all that sort of cliche. And it was a message. That's what Babylon is. That's what the temptress of Babylon is. She may come looking beautiful, but what's beneath her is decay and damage, and it's going to drag your soul right down to hell. This again is in Proverbs, beware of the lips of the adulterous woman, although they drip honey, her ways will bring you down to hell. Now again, men are not learning this, and it's not to say women are bad. Don't believe the feminists when they say this, and if people are saying that in the spiritual traditions, they don't understand it. But there are many who do. It's not saying women are bad. It's how the dark forces can work through women and find the man, just like the snake worked through Eve to get to Adam. Same thing. And this is why we have to start conceptualizing our journey as a battle against the temptresses of Babylon. These women, deep down, are beloved souls of God too, but they are very often being used. And you'll know because they're dressed like they're going to some whorehouse. And you see it a lot in this day and age. And it's tempting to engage in that world. And I know, I've been there. And I have friends to this day who say, why bother? Society's falling apart. There's nothing left to live for. No one respects God. I may as well just, quote, ride the decline. Hook up with all these women. Have fun. Everyone else is. Well, if you can do that, go and do it. But the problem is you have a soul. And if you're conscious of the issues that have led to the decline, your soul will scream. Because you have a nature which is beyond this world. That's God calling for you to come home. He's saying, whatever happens in this world, however fallen it is, I want you to come home, son. I love you. Go on your real journey of growth. And if men don't hear that call, how are they going to be able to stand up to the power of the world? They won't be able to. We have to remember, female beauty is like a rose. And every rose, as beautiful and sweet smelling as it may well be, comes with thorns. And those thorns will pierce you and break you if you try and grab onto that rose. A rose is to be respected, admired, but something to be careful with. This again is why our tradition put boundaries around sexuality, marriage. It's a way that we can enjoy the beauty of the rose and allow ourselves and the woman in our unique masculine and feminine formation to go on that spiritual journey together as one. And of course, that doesn't just create a better life for us because we're saying no to the world. Remember, marriage is a spiritual vow, ultimately. It's a vow to go on the journey of spiritual evolution. We're also ordering society. We're not harming society unnecessarily by cheating and sleeping with all these women and making it harder for them to bond or find the right person. And again, the world will be the world. I know it's bad now, but it's been a lot worse in history. It really has. The real question is, can we turn to God? And that will allow us to say no to the temptresses and temptations of Babylon, those which come with us with all the promises, all the incredible beauty, all the incredible lust that comes with it, the crazy sexual experiences we hear. Oh, I had a threesome with 3 girls. It was amazing. And I know what it's like when you're in that worldly mindset. You think, oh, I wish I could have a threesome with 3 girls. How did that guy manage that? That's the pull of the world. Just say, oh, yeah, cool. Glad you're having fun. None of my business. What I want is God the Father. Take me home, Lord. Let me pray for that man and these women that are having threesomes and all that. I wish them well. I hope they find their way. And I hope that you remove the lust in me to be drawn to these things. Lord, I want to be with you. I want to be with my wife. I want to be a man who's learning and truly growing towards the solar plane. I want to be free from the pull of the world, not so I can hate the world, so I can love the world, so I can appreciate it in all of its beauty, but recognize that we are in the world, but not of it, as that lovely phrase goes. So I hope that this will help some of you in this battle, because I believe it's paramount. And once you enforce, if you like, that pull of lust in a society, it pulls men down to their lowest nature. And that cannot happen for the health of us as individuals, our journey with God, and us as a civilization too. I hope this helps somebody out there. Please do join the Substack, holding a free course soon all about the work I'm doing. You can also join the monthly calls as well if you wish. Do take care. God bless, friends.